Lawrence Lucas, who are all on community cop assignment at this time. And instead of me going solo, I can't think of two better people to have than the straight Black Pride representatives here in New York City. So we're going to take off real fast, and this time I'm going to try to keep my word. It's going to be all about straight Black Pride. I just have two quick historical pieces. We won't delve deep into it. We're just going to mention them, and then we're going to get right into straight Black Pride because you have some questions that went unanswered, so they had to come back this week. Quickly, this is the anniversary of, first the birthday of Frederick Douglass. Any thoughts, Frederick Douglass?
No.
She says no. How about you, Ted?
I'll just say I have a level of admiration for Frederick Douglass coming into my consciousness. He was one of the first slave narratives that I've ever read. Prior to the book Slave Narratives by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and another book called Bullwick Days. But Frederick Douglass was the first time I read a first account book, so it really opened my eyes, and I won't negate that. Now, in terms of his political positions, those are things I may not have been in full agreement with, but I guess he was doing what he had to do for those times.
Well, I'll concur. I'll just add that brilliant orator, great man in his own right. However, you know, some misgivings, like most, was able to free himself with the help of his wife. She helped free him from the bowels of slavery, and it's just that when he got out of slavery and got his freedom, I think he made some poor choices with respect to who he ran with. You know, Garrison and all these guys that he ran with, they were abolitionists. However, the strong ones, the Garnetts, the Mont Delaney's and others, that wasn't the crew. It's like in today's thinking, you have the civil rights movement and you have the Black Power movement. He chose the civil rights movement as opposed to the Black Power movement, and that's why in Buffalo, New York in 1843, he definitely had the opportunity, led by Garnett, and others who decided that they would go into the South without any assurances from anyone else, just on their own, in excess of 50,000 strong. They was just going to go south and free every black man, woman, and child in that process, and then arm them, take every weapon you can, and then just continue into the deep South. Well, he moved against that. It came to a vote in Buffalo with many black men and women from all over the country. This is many conventions like that, and at this one they actually went to a vote, and Fred Douglass unfortunately voted against it, and that's a major strike against, Fred Douglass when you look at his legacy. But his July 4th speech was incredible, fantastic. At that festive occasion, he let them know it wasn't that festive, but and like I said before, which I've said many times on this show, he was asked, what's the difference in him and Mont Delaney? He said, I'm proud that I'm a man. Mont Delaney is proud that he's a black man. So that was the difference. That's like you could pick your civil rights leader and compare him to Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. It's that difference. But, much respect for what he accomplished, as an orator, as a representative, but there was a downside, and that's probably why Keisha didn't want to mention it. But it's all right, Fred. You good, man. You good. You have your place in history. NAACP was formed this day in 1909. Your thoughts? Now you gonna say okay, cool. You Ted? They had them. Look, I'm gonna forget about straight Black Pride. They hold grudge is good.
No. I just have to give props to the NAACP for Robert F. Williams and his wife Mabel Williams.
Right. Well, I'm not sure they were supportive of what he eventually did. But,
of course not. But he was a member that
the so-called Negro with guns band who said that's it. We ain't talking no more. That was Robert F. Williams, North Carolina. But
shout
anyway,
out to Rachel Dolezal.
And when they say something, look what they say. Well, they joking now, but I think they're gonna get serious in a minute. But the NAACP had its day in the sun. Unfortunately, that day in the sun was a long time ago. They were in the business of that time of helping some black folks, and did a lot of good things. I won't take anything away from them. I'm not gonna, just act like they didn't do anything. It's just that now. But back then, in the 1909, it was noteworthy what they did. Certainly Monroe Trotter, Ida B. Wells, they said, I'm not joining no organization that's run by white folks, no black organization that's run by white folks. So they left the Niagara movement, which morphed into the NAACP, but other blacks stayed, and certainly, when you look at whether it was Booker T and certainly W.B. Du Bois and others, they stayed, and they had a time in the sun where they did some good things, and certainly later on, Charles Hamilton Houston, who helped form the legal division of that organization, followed by Thurgood Marshall, which some of you give so much credit, Thurgood Marshall, and you forget the master teacher, Charles Hamilton Houston. But they had their day in the sun, but they're not in the business of defending black people now. They cherry pick, and that'll be it for the history piece. And at this point, my obligations are over as community cop, and now I surrender the program over to Straight Black Pride. I'm going to only ask them one thing, and then after that, I won't ask them anything unless they just run out of things to say. Y'all know that there have been a lot of mysterious killings, murders, let's say it right, murders in Ferguson.
Yes.
And among them, Darren Seals. Was a strong brother. Your thoughts about that, and after that, it's on you.
Well, yes, in my investigation, it was a murder, because you cannot shoot yourself behind the ear and then set the vehicle on fire after you've shot yourself. So it was a murder.
You sure about that?
I'm positive.
Okay, all right, just checking.
I'm positive. And this is the difference between those civil rights activists that were in Ferguson as opposed to black nationalistic rights in Ferguson, which was led by Darren Seals and many others. What happened after that? Organizations like Black Lives Matter and myriad of celebrities came down and co-opted their movement and took it over and ran it into the ground. What was started by Darren Seals was a reckoning of our young brothers and sisters who we deem not fit for society. This brother was able to unify all of them, so-called gang members, so-called street hustlers, in unison to fight police corruption and brutality in St. Louis, Missouri. And they were so powerful in doing that, local and federal authorities paid close attention, and they made it their business to get rid of the organizers of those brothers and sisters on the street, starting with D. Seals.
Well, I was fortunate enough to meet our brother Darren Seals a couple of years back when we were down in Missouri. Phenomenal brother. As Sister Keisha said, he had that charisma. He had that thing that could organize just the regular street dudes. Dudes who had beef with one another from one gang to the other gang. He was able to mediate and then unify the gang. And he was one of the first people to let people know that Black Lives Matter was a farce. He was explaining to people that the uprising that was going on in Ferguson were by out-of-towners. And he was a strong supporter of Straight Black Pride. In fact, we sat up one night just strategizing on how do we bring Straight Black Pride down to St. Louis, also, in addition to just letting it be known what's happening in Ferguson as well as what we're dealing with around the country. Because even with the murder of Mike Brown, because Darren Seals was a friend of the family of Mike Brown's, they were already murdering young black men prior to Mike Brown. Mike Brown just happened to go viral. Right. His murder happened to go viral because after he was gunned down, people just started sharing it on Facebook. So prior to the murder of our brother Darren Seals, he went live on Facebook with the police harassing him. You know, we were friends on social media, and one day he just went live. I think it was about a day or two before his murder. So this whole thing of what's going on down in Ferguson, Missouri, what's happening around the nation, it's a concerted effort that many of us are blind to. And as you mentioned, organizations like NAACP not doing anything now. There's a myriad of organizations that really turn a blind eye to the cries of the people in the inner city, because many of us may not fit the bill of what they think black people should represent. They would just ignore our cries that we're being murdered, we're being harassed by the police. If it's someone who may be part of the, what should I say, the upper echelon of black society, you know, they would rather, you know, give the attention and the resources to them as opposed to the regular, everyday black man and sister that's struggling in these communities, just trying not to be murdered. Because the fact of the matter, a lot of times when Straight Black Pride as a group, when we take our position, we talk about what's going on, we're not just rabble-rousing. We're not just talking about it just to have something to say. The fact of the matter is our people are really being murdered in these streets. And it hasn't been remedied since our enslavement on this soil. So in regards to our brother Darren Seals, I'm going to always lift his name, represent him in the best light, because though he was against Black Lives Matter, once he passed away, CNN went and got a spokesperson from Black Lives Matter to talk about his legacy, which I thought was a slap in the face.
Well, Darren Seals, to those who don't know, he was stopped by the police. And I'll never forget, because I remember when it happened. And when he was stopped by the police, they pulled him out of a car and told him, they said, look how easy this is. They said, you better choose your friends wisely. That's what he was told by police officers in Ferguson. And shortly thereafter, he was mysteriously killed in a way that Sister Keisha described as so out of bounds. So it just didn't make sense, you know, where the entrance wound was, and then, you know, the car being put on fire, the entire car inside and outside, put on fire in a secluded area. You know the average black man, if he got beef with you, if he go to steal, he go to steal. You know, 1 piece, 2 piece, and that's it. That's a real serious beef. What black man takes the time to kill you and then put your car on fire and all that stuff? Come on, man. You know, so I always remember Darren Seals. And I remember, you know, certainly some of the statements he made against Straight Black Pride. And Straight Black Pride is a black face organization that's run by whites.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter is not a black organization, because if you look at the definition that Adam Clayton Powell said what a black organization is, Black Lives doesn't fit the bill. Y'all can continue. That's it for me.
I agree. And one of the things that bothers us in this movement is that we don't really have media voices anymore to speak to these issues. I didn't see any of the so-called black media speak about these murders that are happening in St. Louis, in particular with the organizers, including the videographer of the murder of Mike Brown. He is now missing. And if you're watching, Brother Seltzer, reach out to me. But this continues to happen. The Dominican brother who recorded the murder of Mr. Scott in North Carolina,
right,
he too was threatened with deportation.
Right.
And the videographer of the murder of Eric Garner, also harassed and incarcerated. And this is happening, and no one, the videographer of the recent murder of our brother in Texas, Mr. Botham Jean,
right,
she too being
right,
harassed. And no one speaks to these issues as poignant as Straight Black Pride does. And this is one of the reasons I know that we get a lot of pushback and a lot of attacks as well.
Well, and for the viewers out there, we just want to give y'all a little rundown about some of the principles of Straight Black Pride. We practice healthy habits. And what do we mean by that? We are conscious of our eating habits. We stay in good health, which means, you know, we exercise, we monitor what we eat, you know, we stay fresh. We like good hygiene. That is very important. We don't subscribe to poor righteous teachers. We do believe that we should be financially compensated for much of our efforts because we like to pay it forward. A lot of information that we bring to you are through research, and we know research is not free. We travel extensively. That is not free. So if anyone from Straight Black Pride asks for a donation, please understand that it is to further move our people forward. We think our homes should be clean, cars, neighborhoods, we respect one another. We always address one another as brother or sister, or just respectfully address each other. We eliminate the N-word and negative terms for black women from our vocabulary, as well as brothers. We do not harm one another unjustly, whether it's physically, verbally, or psychologically. We know that our people are operating from a deficit in terms of information and consciousness. So we don't want to verbally attack people. We don't want to beat people up. We just want to share information. And sometimes we're very passionate about it. So please don't take it as us trying to offend you. What we're trying to do is move our people forward. We don't steal from one another. That's a no-no. We don't steal from one another. We exercise discipline. We live up to our word. We are on time for important engagements. We are not vulgar, specifically around children. As adults, if you might got a dirty joke you want to tell the friends in the comfort of your home, we're not telling you can't do that. But when we're in public, we have to represent the best of who we are as African people. We exude quality in everything we do. We provide quality in any type of work we perform. We provide the best quality customer service at our business. We produce and sell quality products. And we religiously support black-owned business. We only support consensual heterosexual relationships. We only support relationships between black men and black women, and we defend our children against homosexuality and pedophilia. Now, what does that mean? That means I'm not going to try to hook a gay man up with another gay man. If that's your preference, that's your business. I don't have to engage in it. I don't have to support it. I'm not going to disrespect you and beat you up for your choices. That's something that you have to live with, but please don't ask me to support it because you're going to be upset. And we are definitely adamant about protecting our children. We are not going to convince our children that anything outside of coupling with the opposite sex is appropriate. We do not support that either. We support the same principles and family values that our grandparents valued. That's a man and a woman to produce children. Nothing more, nothing less. Specifically, a black man with a black woman. And that's our position. So as you see in here, Straight Black Pride, it's not predicated on hate. If anything, we're based in love. The love for our people, the love for our children, the love for one another. Because unfortunately, this new genocide that's being presented that's being put against us is under the auspices of love. It's called same-gender loving now. Whatever you want to call it, that's not what we support. And just as you have your position to support what you feel is necessary, we have the same right to support what we deem is necessary for ourselves and our children. And that's just about different right now. Oh, well, we always get bullied by the homosexual community, but that's all right. Because though we see there's an anti-bullying campaign, we always tell children don't bully people. But unfortunately, anybody who don't support homosexuality is labeled as homophobic, which is an oxymoron because I'm not afraid of anybody gay. So that kills that argument right there.
Well, it sounds like you love African culture. That's what it sounds like to me, because most of the precepts and guidelines that y'all are talking about are all reflections of African culture.
Well, that's what it is, Brother Mike, and this is actually the way that I was raised. This is what my grandparents taught me. You don't steal, you don't rob, you don't have nothing nice to say to anybody, don't say anything. Many people don't understand that some of our people, some of our supporters of Straight Black Pride are outspoken and they're passionate because this death style is being shoved down our throats. Now, if you want to live that life, you're more than welcome to live your life the way you see fit. But please don't try to push it on me and my children. And this is where the pushback from us come in, because we have a right to raise our children the way we see fit. Muslims raise their children in Islam. Jewish people raise their children in Judaism. Christians raise their children in Christianity. Now, Straight Black Pride is not a religious organization.
Right.
So whatever your religious affiliation, we accept you. As long as you believe a black man should be with a black woman to produce black children. We don't have this political or religious ideology that we're going to conflict with, because we're all about preserving the black family. As you stated, it's African culture. But we understand that Africa has 55 different nations with a myriad of cultures within each nation. So Africa's not a one-size-fit-all. Everybody don't always see eye to eye, and everyone don't always agree. But one thing I do say is everybody's worthy of respect. Respect my position, I'll respect yours.
Right.
But once you disrespect my position and start name calling me because I don't agree with your lifestyle, now we have a problem, because aggression get met with aggression.
Well, the reason why I say African culture is simply because there's Mayat in literally every African country in existence.
Yes.
When you break it down to even tribes, you see the balance of Mayat, the principles that are there. You see a whole different set of principles in European culture. That's why I'm saying African culture.
Yes.
You know yourself that whether it's the Greeks or Romans, you know the decadent behavior that they engaged in, and it was just it was flourished. It was just out front. Where in African culture, there's no celebration of homosexuality anywhere in Africa. It's not raised up as a virtue in anywhere in Africa. That's why if I say Africa, and I'm very well aware that Africa's a continent, 53 or more countries, but that's consistent across the board. Sister Keisha?
Well, absolutely. And as Tad said, we know we have a position as well. And unfortunately, right now, in this political climate in this country, you have a lot of bullying going on with the LGBTQ movement. Just recently in news here in New York City, you have that group or that lobby group trying to put pressure on Ruben Diaz Sr. To take back some comments that he may have made or may not have made. I don't know. But he has a right to his opinion. His legislation is not going to stop anybody from LGBTQ from doing anything. But what is happening now, legislation is being passed to stifle us from having an opposite view. In language, in speech, in education, in economics, in loan, in financing, we are being bullied. And so Straight Black Pride is pushing back and saying no more. You can't do this anymore. This is our culture. This is what we grew up as. As Tad said, in all nations, they have different tribal beliefs, different customs, but what is common is that we came in this world straight, black, and proud, and that's the way we leave it. And we can't go against that. Unfortunately, our people are bombarded with marketing campaigns to support such things as LGBTQ. However, there is no marketing campaigns being pushed through your television and radio being straight, black, and proud. There never has been. And as far as where we stand now, it may not ever be. So you need Straight Black Pride to have a pushback. And even though we're Straight Black Pride, we even have supporters who are not black, who understand that this is going too far. Enough is enough. And I can say that we were the first to kickstart this thing off and say no more. And we're putting pressure on political pundits who wish to run in our districts that if you have an agenda or a proposal or a bill in support of LGBTQ and you are running in a predominantly African American district, that's not going to fly. You have to respect our culture.
Well, it sounds like that Straight Black Pride believes in the principle of Kujichagulia, self-determination. That's what it sounds like, that you're not going to allow a foreign philosophy develop the narrative for your group.
Correct.
And so I understand when you say that's a form of bullying if you try to win me to your side, and if I say something to reflect my culture, automatically you're calling me anti-something by reflecting my culture.
Correct. Just the other day, you had the Chinese community here in New York City celebrate their Chinese New Year. And schools were shut down for that. And a lot of offices were closed for that. Now, I don't know anything about the Chinese New Year ritual. However, I do respect it. The problem is we don't have the same for black people. Dr. Carlos Russell started Black Solidarity Day many
Absolutely.
years ago.
Right.
And here with all of the black city council members, black governors that we've had, mayors that we've had, state legislators that we have, we can't shut down a school for Black Solidarity Day still. And this is a new immigrant. Already have Chinatowns in every major city. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're already having schools shut down to celebrate something that is culturally a part of who they are. But when we say it, we're told to be quiet, that we should be inclusive of everybody, that we are multicultural. We are not that.
Right.
We're straight, black, and proud, and this is what we want for our people. So.
Yeah, well, of course, I agree with my sister Keisha, because as she mentioned, Chinatown, they have banks, they have all kinds of institutions to support their efforts to move their community further. However, when straight black pride, or just black people who are sane, period, talk about these things, we're radicals, we're rabble rousers, we're all kind of troublemakers, but we see the necessity for our survival. Because we were the only group of people that weren't brought here for the American dream. I said it before. We weren't brought here for the American dream. We were brought here for the American scheme. We were one of the first we were the first commodities on the stock market, and we were never given the economic leg up in this community to, move our people forward. And when we did have an economic leg up, we saw what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rosewood, and Durham, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, all over the country.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah. Everything that we say we want now, black schools, black businesses, black banks, we've already had.
Right.
It would be nothing new.
They came under attack.
Right. It came under attack, destroyed, demolished, and every community we did have, they built highways right through it so we would never rebuild.
That's the federal government, because he's moving fast. It's the federal government. In other words, it's not just a local thing where the local KKK or the local city council exercise racism, environmental racism, moving people out before you can get ahead, own the property, moving you out, systematically moving you all over the place, destroying your economic structure. So it was not only state governments, local municipalities. Ted is saying that the federal government played a key role in destabilizing the black community nationwide.
Thank you for putting it into context, because a lot of times when we talk racism, people will look at George Zimmerman or what's the little Burger King boy name? Dylan Roof.
Yeah.
People will look at one person and say, oh, that's racism. And thank you for putting it in context, letting it be known that racism is institutionalized. Because as sure as we just take George Zimmerman alone, we can't just be mad at George Zimmerman. We got to be mad at the police officers that let George Zimmerman walk away. We got to be mad at the coroner that left Trayvon Martin down there for a few days and removed his organs without his family's permission or knowledge. We got to be mad at the jurors that decided that there wasn't a crime committed. So it wasn't just George Zimmerman, it was the whole system that supported his action. So again, Brother Mike, thank you, because a lot of times we talk about racism and people don't understand what racism is or how it operates or who even has their hands in it. Because as you said, this is pretty much, it's law. Local.
It's codified law.
It's law to discriminate against black people. So when we ask for our 40 acres and a mule proverbially, people
Special field on the 15. Go ahead. I've been told a little bit in sometimes.
Yeah, that's Black History Hitman. But a lot of this information our people don't know, and in fact, this is not being taught in schools, because I wasn't taught this stuff in school. I've learned by listening to elders, people that was giving me another way to see things, not just be conditioned to what society is telling me, not to be brainwashed by the television or the radio shows. So
quick. The elders say.
Okay, thanks.
The elders say, we're following our elders.
Yes.
Dr. Clark said we should be straight, black, and proud. Dr. Ben said we should be straight, black, and proud. Dr. Julia Hare said we should be straight, black, and proud. And that's what I'm sticking to, straight, black, and proud.
Quick question. What do y'all think of this thing, Jennifer Lopez and Motown, or the whole concept itself of these cultural bandits?
Well, here's the thing.
Get y'all in trouble.
I'm always in trouble. But here's the thing, and I've said this many times before, we have a problem with misappropriation of our culture. Brother Del Jones wrote extensively about culture bandits coming amongst us. And I blame black celebrities for bringing others around them, incorporating them, teaching them the process, and then they take it over. And we have to deal with that. I have a problem with Mr. Smokey Robinson, and I have a problem with Gladys Knight.
And I have a problem with T.I., and I have a problem with all the rest of these dudes that support this. Because about a year or two ago, Snoop Dogg called Iggy Azalea a B. You know, and T.I. put the pressure on Snoop Dogg to make him apologize. But not once did he have Snoop Dogg apologize for calling black women B's. But the reason Snoop Dogg called Iggy Azalea a B, because she thought she had the right to use the N-word. Being the native-born Australian, she thought she could come over here, mimic black culture, because all of a sudden she has a southern accent once she gets to the States, starts rapping, out-rapping everyone. And I mean not lyrically out rapping, but financially, because the powers that be support her and push this agenda of negative images of who we are. As you said, Baba Del Jones, peace be upon him, have wrote either 2 or 3 volumes of Culture Bandits. And I believe that was in 1991 when he released the first volume of Culture Bandits 1. And he said in the future, hip hop will be taken over by white people. He said just as they done jazz, rock and rolls, blues. But now when we look, when you talk about who's the greatest, what do they say? Eminem. A couple of years ago, who walked away with all the Grammys? Macklemore. Open homosexual with his white lover was supposed to be better than our brightest from our community. I think even one year a white group won Best Reggae Artist on Grammys also. We got Sam Smith, we got Adele, we got all these people misappropriating our culture.
That's right.
But I believe it was Stephanie Mills said they want black music, but they don't want it from black people.
That's right.
And that's a problem.
We're gonna have some calls. We're gonna let y'all continue.
I'm not done.
First caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Brooklyn.
All right.
The Street Black Flag. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
And Black Lives Matter was started by a man named George Soros, the billionaire.
He financed
George Soros is a Jew. He changed his name to Soros. And the NAACP was started by, I think, 4 white guys and 1 black. And one of the leaders is Spring Arm. And the highest award that they give out is the Spring Arm Award. Spring Arm turns over the name of every black member to the government. Yes.
To the Military Intelligence Division. That's correct.
Yes.
That preceded the FBI.
Yes, and one more thing. Their bylaws, what organizations have a bylaw that they can't own land? This is what the white leaders did to make sure that blacks don't really get anything.
Brother, that's a beautiful point. What you're saying about military intelligence, they were getting the numbers, getting the information, passing it on to the military, government, you know, who was involved in World War I at that time. And that's a beautiful point about not having an economic program. That's beautiful, brother. Next caller, welcome. Brother, beautiful, man. Next caller, welcome to Community Pride, unless y'all want to respond.
Let's go to the next one.
My name is Mike. I'm calling from Harlem.
All right.
My question is Foster. If I could.
Forrest, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gay. I'm straight.
Okay.
But I ain't gay because that's what I think jail best of me. But it's just curiosity. What's your take on the Jesse Smollett? Let's say if you saw a gay guy getting beaten up in the streets, like harassed or called names, would you involved in something? Will leave him alone? Because I'm not trying to. Sometimes you have an intense dislike toward gay people. I got an guess. I'm just curious. What's your take on things like the Jesse Smollett? If you saw a gay person abused, would you step in and say something?
Do you understand what he said?
A little broken up, but I think I got the gist of what he said. As far as Jesse Smollett incident, I haven't had enough information to comment on that. As a matter of fact, they're still investigating that incident. But if I saw one of my own people getting stomped out by Urugu, then I'm joining in to help them.
There you go. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? In other words, she's looking at a black person needs help. She's going to help a black person. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Brother Ray.
Hey,
Come on,
brother
Ray Ray. You got to move faster.
Hey,
Come
how you
on,
doing, Big
man.
Mike? How you doing, Keisha? How you doing, Brother Ted? Straight Black Pride.
Straight Black Pride, brother.
We can't shut down anything. Remember, Community Cop family, tomorrow, Wednesday the 13th, Professor Mackey's lecture series will be happening at 103 Quincy Street. I'm fired up about this.
All right.
It's going to start at 7:30, and it's going to end at 15 after 10. Take the A train to Franklin Avenue and walk down the block. B52 bus, B26 bus. Going to start at 7:30. We going to have Brother Graves, from what I heard, word out on the street, is going to be doing a lecture on Black History Month. And
If I
listen,
get out of
I'm
this,
giving
yeah.
the dirtiness of that religious institution on Howard Avenue, on the way they treated that sister. And I'm glad, Keisha, y'all came out and helped her. And I hope the wife and the husband is listening to Community Cop and start listening to lectures and get conscious. But I tell you, I don't know what they did to us on them slave plantations with that church, but they did a job on us. They did a job on us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Ray Ray, you said it's 103 Quincy Street. That's right there, Quincy and Franklin. Is that right? Okay, what he was talking about, there's a lecture series going on, and so many of us, especially Brooklynites, we're used to Wednesday night lectures. We're going to continue that process. 103 Quincy Street, downstairs, 7:30. Come on by. I'm going to be lecturing tomorrow night.
He mentioned that he hopes that the family is watching Community Cop so they can get a more conscious education. Believe it or not, Brother Ray Ray, we've already begun that process. And this is why I say it is important that we are out there amongst our people in our community and get involved, because for a couple who had no insight of consciousness, I get a myriad of questions now. And so we already on the board with that, brother.
And that's the sister that was raped by her father in the church. The sister Imani, her name is out there already, so I'll say Imani, as you well know. And certainly you have Straight Black Pride as well as 100 Blacks in law enforcement and other organizations, SWAP, that are helping out, the African Village, so many others that are all pitching in to help. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn.
Go.
Listen, I want to get together. Our neighborhood, we need to get an open footage to come. So just like people are chasing, please do anything else. People get on.
Okay, brother, you're gonna have to call back. We can't hear you. You're breaking up. We're gonna have to go to the next caller. We're gonna have to go to the next caller. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm from Manhattan. How you doing?
Good.
It's a
Yourself?
great show. This is the continuation from last week, right? I caught the tail end last week.
Okay.
And I thought this was the same show, and I kept calling, and they kept going to the voicemail piece. I'm sorry.
Quick question.
I'm exhausted. This is an excellent show. I'm glad you brought up the brother from Ferguson who they set on fire in the car. That thing hurt me to my heart. You know how they just knocking us off. And then the thing about with this mayor, this de Blasio and this governor, at least in Newark, they put up 50 G's for the information leading to the kids and 4 girls getting shot. You got this woman right here in Coney Island, the mother of 6, 12 grandchildren. She was a construction worker, shot dead on the street. You would think the mayor would have made a statement, offering something for something. All these shootings and killings that's going on daily, multiple shootings 24/7, and the people that have the so-called legal guns, the cops, the city council people, and all these folks, they can go in these communities and do clean streets. They can kick doors. They can do something about this foolishness. Is what the point I'm trying to make. But no one is doing anything. This is just multiple shootings 24/7 all
got you.
You see
Got
my point? But your show today is very good, excellent.
And Straight Black Pride is preaching African culture. That'll resolve a lot of this. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing, gentlemen? I'm calling from the Bronx.
All right, the boogie down.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have enjoyed your show tremendously over the last several months.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that someday I can get you guys on my show. I'm Robbie Gubs with the Concerned Forum.
Okay.
You know, and I find what you guys say to be quite apropos. Listen,
Thank
just
you.
two things. Number one, in terms of Kamala Harris, I am not, and this is a problem that we have politically in the black community. And I always say that we need to take notes from Jewish people, okay? Now, a Jewish person that can go and marry an Hispanic, a black, an Irishman, an Italian, doesn't make a difference. But he is not going to do anything against his own interest or the interest of his people. Now, I'm not talking about Israel now. That's for a whole other subject, another time.
Right.
But I'm saying in terms of, you know, if people are trying to harass them, you know, they stand up and, you know, they fight for, you know, for justice for themselves. And see, you don't have to be, it doesn't matter who you're married to. And see, that's one of the terrible things.
I think, hold on, brother. I think our guests disagree. They're saying it does matter who you're married to, who you sleep with, who you will live the rest of your life with. They're saying that it does matter within the traditional African context. They're saying that a black man should be with a black woman, and that's what they're saying. So
Well,
I understand what you're saying, but their position is differently, and I hope some people direct their questions more towards them. You can always talk to me, but if you direct it towards them, let's see what they think.
Well, see, I'll tell you quite frankly, I believe that one of the terrible things about American society is that it strips out the humanity of people. I should be able to look at you as a human being, and if I see an injustice done to you, I should be man enough to stand up and speak on that, whether you happen to be black or whether you happen to be Asian or Caucasian. It doesn't make a difference. That's the first thing, and I don't want to really get turned around on that.
That's
because
all right.
Now we're talking about Kamala Harris as a possible nominee for the Democratic Party.
Got you.
And I tell you,
you're going to have to wrap it up, brother. Wrap it up.
Yeah. All I'm saying is what we need to do as a community is look before we leap.
Thank
we
you.
Need to check
we'll
out
stop
the
right
background.
there. We'll stop right there.
Good enough. God bless you all. Keep up the good work.
Right
Thank
now.
you. Thank you for the call. Okay, Sister Keisha.
Well, let me just say this. Straight Black Pride is not in support of Kamala Harris or a Cory Booker presidency. Neither of them represent the agenda of what our people need today. Neither of them speak to the plight of black people today. They speak to the plight of LGBTQ, immigrant rights, police rights, and everybody else's rights. But though they have a hue that looks like us, that don't make them us.
And in terms of marriage, I just have to say this. Romance without finance is a nuisance. Marriage should be a business. And traditional cultures and all over the world, that if you wanted to marry someone, you had to present a dowry to the family. What can you offer us? What is the benefit of marriage? You're talking about American society. We have to think outside the box. We have to stop thinking monolithic in terms of what American society is. We have to broaden our viewpoints. We have to broaden our thought process. You know, Sister Keisha, myself, Brother Mike, we travel extensively. We know there's a whole world outside of the United States of America. So anything they give us, this false narrative of a melting pot, is fictitious because it's never worked for us. See, people are always always invited in our bed, but we're not invited in anyone else's bed, nor would I want to be. But I say that to say that people only marry into our culture because there's a benefit. There's no benefit of me marrying a white person unless they need a new slave, unless they need a new stud to procreate with, and I'm not with it. See, once we start understanding the institution of slavery and the psychological process that goes along with that, then we'll start to understand. Because you see a black man and a white woman, or white man and a black woman in a relationship, doesn't mean that the white man is not racist. Shoot, we could look at Thomas Jefferson,
right,
who was a slave owner, loved him some black love, right? But are you going to tell me he wasn't a racist?
He was a racist.
A rapist.
He was a rapist.
Yeah, he was both. So I'm saying that relationships and marriage are political statements. Who you choose to align yourself with the rest of your life with shows where your political allegiance is.
That's right.
You take the Jackson family. I'm gonna wrap this point up. You take Michael Jackson's family. Look how almost the whole family have got with a white partner. Now you look at Katherine Jackson's grandchildren. That whole Jackson empire, where do you think the money for that family is going? Do you think it's going to the black community, or is it going to the white community? And I'm gonna just get off my soapbox right there.
Chancellor Williams' brilliant work, Destruction of Black Civilization. It shows the dangers if blacks mix with anybody. It shows how Arabs were able to come into Africa and destabilize. And now when you look at Kemet, so-called Egypt, when you look at Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and all these places, all filled with Arabs. What happened to those black people that lived in all of those places?
South Africa,
what happened
Australia?
to them? They either destroyed or they've been relegated to the level of a slave. So we should not, I know they could say it, but I'm just saying we should cohabitate with our own. Because I believe what Chancellor Williams said. So it's not only a straight black pride thing. Chancellor Williams, the great Dr. Chancellor Williams, showed us how our community has been decimated for thousands of years, not just one lifetime or two. We're talking about thousands of years. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Norman from Brooklyn.
All right.
Have you ever read a book called Medical Apartheid?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, that was about the father of the American Medical Association experimenting on black female slaves
Yes.
on their reproductive organs without anesthesia.
Yes. Absolutely. Keep going. Don't listen to your TV.
Okay, turn the TV down. And the whole book also talks about how we, throughout since our existence here in America, we've been used for medical experimentation.
True.
Well, you're absolutely right. The caller's talking about medical apartheid. What's this name?
Marion Sims. Dr. Marion Sims.
No. Washington. Henrietta Washington.
Yeah, Harriet Washington, that's what it is.
Right.
Harriet Washington.
Yeah. Harriet Washington.
And the person he's talking about is Dr. Marion J. Sims, who experimented on young black
he's not
children.
the only one that did that.
Right.
There were many
they
others.
call him the father of gynecology.
Oh, right. Yes.
That's what they call the father of gynecology. And even dealing with that, we learn now that it just wasn't plantation owners that bought enslaved Africans, but it was doctors, to his point, to experiment on our folks.
Yes, I would like to add too. There's a lot of colleges that use black people, their bodies for like medical experimentation. A lot of colleges, universities got their start from the money brought in from slavery.
It's still going on right now as we speak. They're doing it to inmates all over the country. They're getting reduced time for allowing their bodies to be experimented on. So it's an ongoing process. So, black man, black woman, gear up, bunker down, and let's get ready. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Abibi Fahodier, I'm calling from Colorado.
Abibi Fahodier.
Colorado,
Hey,
all right.
Colorado,
let me write that
down. You guys are on today. Quick comment. This country is 242 years old. Africans have been citizens of this country recognized less than 100 years. So there is no such thing as humanity for us in this country. So you need to get that out of your mind. To anybody who thinks that way. Quick question, and then I'll go back to watching online. We see that there is a push to give the black card out to so many people. What kind of counteraction can we take to take those cards back, especially from like the Kamala Harris and stuff like that? That's my question. Straight black pride. Thank you for everything that you guys do.
Straight black pride, brother.
Well, let me just say this. We have to attack them in the arenas in which they show up in. So whether it's town hall meetings, on Twitter, wherever it is, we got to go at them right where they are and create an audience of our people so that they can see us tear their arguments down or their political platforms down, of which we have been doing with Straight Black Pride Radio.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why we always remind people that we are African. You know, we use black and African interchangeably within the Straight Black Pride movement. However, to your point, that's our brother Black Nagus also. You know, they are giving out black cards like food stamps. So we identify with being African because right now almost anybody could be black, as you see. Even with Rachel Dolezal's white parents acknowledging her as a white child, people still recognize her as being black just because she said so. So I don't buy into the transracial thing. I don't buy into trans anything. I don't even want transparency, transportation, transmission, no trans action, no trans fat in my food. All of these newly created identities, I'm not going to deal with because the fact of the matter is, like the caller previously talked about, you know, while we sitting here playing willy-nilly and having an identity crisis, people who know who they are and know who we are rounding us like cattle and exterminating us. So Straight Black Pride is here for the 21st century survival of the African race. And it's just that simple.
True.
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, Jim, it's David calling from Washington. I'm going to ask just a gentleman a question. Regardless of what you call interracial marriage, you guys are men. You're not South. So let's say, you actually desire. So in real life, how do you find some white to be very attractive and maybe have those bands? Come on, you're not the zombie spiritually, but the flesh is like,
I have not found one white woman attractive. None.
Well,
I have not found one white woman on this planet attractive. She might look good to you or somebody else. She has not attracted me where I start sniffing that scent. Not me. I'm going to speak for me. No.
Well, I'm going to speak for myself. When you look at that long, golden, stringy spaghetti hair and them thin bologna lips and that pale skin, and I can see the veins, ain't nothing like a chocolate sister with wide hips, that natural black cotton on top of her head. Let me tell you something.
Black the berry, the sweeter the juice.
That's right. And I've been approached by white women. And what's so funny is I always tell them, I don't deal with white women. And I put that on everything that I love. I put that on. I put that on.
She has a black grandson, and she's probably a black grandson.
Who?
Diana Ross. Ain't Diana Ross black?
Why would you mention Diana Ross, who's been in all these white men's beds? You know, come on, why? She ain't no leader.
I think
she's not a
like
representative of our people.
I think you like white women. You want to sleep with white women, just say it, brother. That's your prerogative.
Well, when you say all, that means you want white first, and then you find your way to a black woman when they all reject you. But I understand.
You do know that your ideal or belief of attraction is through socialism. So what you're revealing now is that this media campaign of socializing you to have certain feelings is working.
Well, I guess that brother liked that Scandinavian look. Next caller, quick call. Where you calling from? Quickly. Asking me, do white women attractive? Hell no. Not to me. Now, if you offended by that, y'all the ones that told me don't you dare look at a white woman. I ain't looking at her. I ain't following her trail. I was taught not to do that by the KKK and all these other white supremacists. They said, boy, stay in your place. Well, you get mad. If I stay in my place, you get mad. If I reject her and say, I ain't putting her on a pedestal, you get mad. Damn it, make up your mind. I don't want her. If you want her, you go get her. It's more of them. Go right ahead and get them. You in America, they there. You got a whole another place, Europe, go there. I don't want them. And you mad at me for that?
As a black man who is aware of who I am in this society, the white woman has been the bane of our existence.
Closing comments, Brother Tad.
All right. I just want to tell everybody, if you want to hear more from me and my sister Keisha, you can tune in every Thursday from 7 to 10 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio /SBPM.
Say it again.
Blog Talk Radio /SBPM. That's Straight Black Break Black Pride Movement. That is our channel. You can catch our brother Irritated Genie every Monday night at 7 p.m. on the same channel. But every Thursday, me and Sister Keisha go in like this, and sometimes we go a little deeper because we have more time. We want to thank everybody who's always supported us, and we want to thank our brother Mike Graves and the whole Community Cop staff. And that's it.
Keisha.
Well, again, thank you to the Community Cop family for inviting us on for another episode, and we look forward to doing it again. Always remember, family, you came in this world straight, black, and proud. That is the way you better leave it.
Black man, black woman, protect the black child, accept your own and be yourself. We respect our African culture. We respect Mama Do, Queen Mother, Nana, Big Mama, whatever you want to call her. You can't tell Big Mama, I'm Charles today, and then I'm Charlene the next day. Big Mama don't want to hear that. Big Mama might put her hands on you. She might grab you by your ear, your nose, or she might tighten you up with that ironing cord. Big Mama don't want to hear that you Chucky one day and then you Charlene the next day. Big Mama don't want to hear that. Queen Mother, Nana, Mama Do, whatever you...
Manhattan Neighborhood Network is awesome.
MNN has a wonderful, warm atmosphere.
The MNN instructors that I had were extremely patient.
Clear and concise instructions.
And I learned a whole bunch of stuff that I had never known about TV production.
So I learned all this